Hi, and this is part 4 of our video series on polity and how our church is governed. And today's topic is how decisions are made in our church. Um, Decisions are made through discernment, trust, and accountability because decisions are a spiritual work. And so, whether the question involves like budgeting or staff, ministries, buildings, all these different things, the process is the same, even though it may look different. The process is that we are seeking Christ's will together, trusting to those who are leading and holding them accountable, and but really just trusting them in their decision making process. And so the question is, how does this work in real life? And so first and foremost, discernment comes before all the decisions. And so discerning means praying. It means trying to figure out what God's will is. We don't begin with policies. We don't begin with outcomes. We don't begin with, systems or anything like that. We begin with discernment. So, for example, if a session, board of elders, if they are discussing a ministry's direction, or if a presbytery, the group that is above the different individual churches, considers a pastor's call, then those councils, those boards will begin with prayer. The question is not, you know, what do we prefer? The question is not, will this make money or what is easiest? Will we come out with a profit at the end? The question is this something that the Lord was wanting us to do? And so uh, every decision that we make is made with discernment. And hopefully we're always following what Christ is calling this church or this council or this ministry, this presbytery to do. And so decisions are entrusted. They're not crowdsourced. They are not, taking a poll and saying, "Hey, this is what everyone says, and this is what we should do." Decisions is based. They're based on trust and delegation. And so the congregation is really important. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But the congregation itself doesn't make all these decisions directly. What happens is that the congregation elects elders and ordains elders to trust them with the spiritual and fiduciary duty. Fiduciary means trusting them with important decisions that they have. The elders have an obligation to do what is best for the church, not for themselves. And so this applies to decisions such as, ministry direction, mission, staffing, supervision, use of resources such as finances or budgeting, use of the building, but also long-term planning in terms of, where is the church headed? What direction? What is the vision? So, for example, a budget is not just a financial document that lists, assets and liabilities. But what a budget does is that it reflects missional priorities, care for the people, and faithful stewardship. And um, budget is only one expression, is one facet of the larger responsibility that the session is entrusted. And the authority that the session has is exercised on behalf of the congregation because they were voted by the congregation. No one becomes an elder just because, they were appointed by one person. Uh, the congregation has to vote those elders in order to ordain and install them. Now, when different boards and councils meet, there is usually a open debate, and it doesn't mean it has to be contentious, but it means that those meetings, everyone has an ability to share their opinion. Um, and in our polity, decision making assumes that there might be people who disagree. Doesn't mean one is right, one is wrong. Does not mean that one way is better than the other. It just means that there are different avenues and different things that people may disagree on because no one sees the full picture alone. And the Spirit works through the body. The Spirit works through multiple people. And so whether the issue is direction or property use, financial stewardship. Leaders are expected to speak honestly, listen to each other, um, disagree respectfully, because no one gets everything they want. That's simply not possible. And so faithful decisions emerge through communal discernment, through discussion, through prayer, not personal agendas. And so at the end, when the councils make decisions, it's usually done through a voting process. A lot of what we do in the church is done with the voting process. So when a council votes, it's not simply counting opinions. Voting is about offering a person's best discernment and like, this is how I think Christ is leading us to go. It's trusting Jesus to work through imperfect people, and it's submitting to the decision of the larger body. And so you may disagree, and that's okay. But those in the minority, we don't disengage. We don't, the minority doesn't say, you know what, forget this. They submit, just as the church submits to the headship of Christ, just as Christ the Son submitted to the will of God the Father. It's learning how to submit and be humble. But at the same time, there's an accountability that the council has to the whole as the whole of the church. And so voting is how we as Presbyterians, how we move forward together, even when there might be some disagreement. Now, congregational voting fits in. If you are a member, you've gone through our membership class, then you have both rights and responsibilities. And one of the rights you have is the right to vote. You have the right to vote in certain congregational meetings. And so congregations do vote, but they vote for specific decisions that require the affirmation of the whole body of the church. Some of the examples that are listed in our book of order are the calling or dissolving the call of a pastor. And so basically hiring and letting go of a pastor, electing elders and deacons. We just went through a voting process for deacons from our ministry recently. And then certain major property actions. So we went through one last year, 2 years ago, over 12 months ago, about starting the process to search for a new building. And these voting issues are very specific. So, for example, in the starting the process for a new building, just because we started the process and we're searching for a building does not mean that we have to move to that building. There is a process for that too. But the congregation has the ability to vote for some of these things that are listed in the Book of Order, but they're very specific. That requires the entire body. And those moments, those meetings, they affirm a shared trust in each other and in the leadership, and a mutual commitment that, hey, whatever decision is made, whatever decision is made by the body as a whole, even though there may be some dissent or disagreement, that there is a mutual commitment to go forward in this way. And so the flip side of that is congregations do not vote for like day-to-day leadership or fiduciary, like financial responsibilities, because those things are entrusted to the session. And so when you voted for deacons or elders, when you voted for elders, you're entrusting those operational issues and topics, you're entrusting them to the elders who are leading the church, the pastors who are, helping serve the church. And so an example of that would be budgets. Budgets are made, a decision made by the Board of Elders, the session. Another example of that would be mission. In terms of, what direction, what is the vision, the mission of this coming year, the themes of the church, perhaps even sermon series and teaching topics. Those are day-to-day activities, week-to-week activities of the leadership that a congregation has entrusted to the session or to the pastor. And so this is not about like limiting voice and saying, hey, this doesn't concern you. That's not what it's about. What it is it's about giving clear responsibilities to those who are in charge, clear responsibilities and faithful governance to those who have been elected and installed as leaders, and trusting them because they were voted in, and they were ordained and installed. And so the session has a lot of weight on their shoulders. The elders have a lot of weight because they carry a lot of responsibility. Like I said, like for example, budget is not one of the things that the congregations vote on, but it's a budget committee that is, either delegated or made by the session or the session itself. And they carry the trust of the congregation and of the church. And the hope is, the prayer is that they are acting in the church's best interest, not their own. And so they carry a lot of weight and responsibility. And in Hebrews, we also see that, those who are teaching, they will be held to a higher standard according to what they teach and, how they live as well, I would think. And so faithful leadership requires a lot of ongoing discernment, ongoing prayer. It may even require confidential conversations, ethical oversight, and the willingness to be reviewed and corrected. These decisions hopefully are not made in a vacuum within the context of just that small group of people. They are, talking to people. There's conversations going on. They basically have a finger on the pulse of the church. And so because the flip side of that is that if every decision were decided by popular vote, if every decision came to the floor for a congregational vote, leadership would become reactive. They would be tied. Mission and purpose would be slowed. They'd stall out. Confidentiality would be compromised. There's a lot of issues there. And so that's why that responsibility, that trust is a ministry. And we need to pray for and support our elders and the decision makers with a lot of prayer. And so trusting ordained leaders, it allows the church to act faithfully. It allows the church to act wisely and responsibly. It allows, a lot of some of the nitty-gritty details of decision making to be taken off the plates, and so that every committee or every department or every ministry can focus on what is important and relevant to them instead of engaging in wide topics that may not really be relevant to them. And then after every decision, there is a sense of accountability. Like I said in a previous message video, that pastors are not CEOs, we're not presidents. Elders are not like senators or congressmen. It doesn't work that way. Entrusted authority is never unchecked, but deacons don't act as like a counterbalance to elders. It doesn't work that way. Everything flows up in terms of the higher council having disciplinary authority and accountability authority over the lower council. And so for our church, what that means is that, we have session elders who have been voted in. We have deacons who have been voted in, ordained and installed by votes, congregational votes. And then the session, they make decisions, and every meeting is recorded. Those are called minutes. And I believe it's once or twice a year. Those minutes have to be submitted to the presbytery. That is the higher council that is kind of oversees and holds the different sessions accountable. And there's financial transparency, there's regular review of records, there's oversight by those councils, and there's even a process for appeal and correction. If someone is caught in sin, or if there's a difference, major disagreements, there's a process for appeals and things like that. And accountability exists not to punish, not to keep everyone in line, but accountability exists to protect the church, to care for its people, and restore trust when harm occurs. And so authority in the church is always shared, it's reviewed, it's limited, it's never absolute. There's a reason why I, as a pastor, I don't know everything that's going on, because authority is shared amongst, board of deacons, amongst the session, amongst other ministry teams, and other people. And so in the church, decisions are made not by a bureaucracy, but it's discipleship that's shaped by trust. We discern together, we entrust leaders with responsibility, we trust them, we use an ordered process, we vote when appropriate, we remain accountable. And really, it's all remembering that this is all under the lordship of Jesus Christ. So we're not acting for our own benefit. We're not acting for our own profit or glory or ambition. What we are is we're trying to discern what is the best way forward, what is the way that the Lord wants us to go, and how our policies and everything else is shaped. It's in that context of wanting to serve and be obedient to Jesus because he is the head of the church. It's not by control, not by popularity, but that kind of representative governance structure that we entrust leaders, but then they hold a sense of responsibility, ethical oversight, and accountability to the people that they are serving. And so there's a lot going on in this decision-making process. And this is just literally like a 15-minute recap of it. If you are curious, the Book of Order is available. It's a public document. Anyone can read it. And if you would like to, anyone can read it. It's available online in multiple places. Our church bylaws it's not a secret. It's an open public document, so anyone can read our church bylaws. In fact, if you've gone through the membership process, then that was part of your membership class, is going through and agreeing and affirming, saying that you agree with our bylaws and statement of faith. So I hope this helps and it clears up any confusion on how decisions are made. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Thanks and have a great day.